welcome to the show. This is Yisrael Live, a new weekly show bringing you everything that's good about the land of Israel, all the top stories, high-profile guests, and original analysis. We're your hosts, Alexander Menashe and Joseph Cohen. And this week, we're joined by a very special guest, a guy called Yasser Tamimi, and he is going to introduce himself. He's a member of the Muslim community, and the reason that we've asked him on today is so that he can tell us and explain to us all the difficult questions he gets asked about Israel from people within his community, and we're going to explore the answers to those questions. The difficulties that come with them, and maybe some of Yassem's answers himself. So, without further ado, this is Yasser Tamim. Welcome to the show, Yassem.
Thank you so much.
If you can just explain to our audience who you are and how you know Joseph and how come we decided we wanted to hear what you have to say. So, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm just like all the person who with some interest in bringing people together, because we live in this country and we have to share the space and the present and probably the future. So I was trying to understand Judaism, starting from my studies of extremism, Islamic extremism, and how the anti-Semitism affects the recruitment of Muslim extremists, and this is where my interest started. So I connected with Sheikh Cohen, and we became friends, brothers.
Yeah. And I'd like to echo that. I'm now a real close friend of Rabbi Tamim. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it, Jassim. As Alexander explained, you get asked a lot of questions about Israel. Some of them you have answers for, some of them you don't have answers for, and maybe even you have some genuine questions yourself. What would be great to throw out as well. Maybe there's, even though you support Israel, maybe there's some things that leave you a little bit uncomfortable with how the state is run or what Jews are doing in the land or whatever it may be. So yeah, let's just jump straight into your first question.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, because I'll try to bring the questions in a polite and constructive way. First thing that worries concern most people I speak to, since I remember about the question of Israel, is that we believe, when I say we, I talk about Muslim, it doesn't mean that I believe. We believe that Zionism is a man-made plan to destroy Islam. And when we look to the past and how this movement developed over the last 100 years, there are signals when you put the pieces together that suggest that is the plan, that everything you guys do have one aim, is to destroy Islam and to stop the expansion of Islam and something like that. So how are you going to answer those allegations? Because before you give me the answer, I would like to say something. We are faced with this when we talk about Islam. We are accused of using taqiyya. So people, they listen to us, but they don't really pay attention. And there are two ways to deal with that. Either you ignore the person, you tell them, okay, it's fine, I'm using taqiyya, whatever, or you try to address that person if the question really matters to you. The Jewish people, they have Zionists specifically, they have this issue within the Muslim community. Whatever you guys say, we believe that you are using taqiyya. I don't know how you're gonna call it in Judah in Hebrew, but we don't. People, they don't listen to you. They don't trust what you say. So how are you going to address that? This is my first question.
So I think for me, it's a very simple answer. If you don't trust the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth, look at their action. And so today, there's nearly 2 million Muslims that live in Israel that have complete equality. There's actually a high probability, or who knows, with Israeli politics, that there may well be a Muslim Brotherhood related political party, Muslim political party in Israel as part of the current government. And I'm just going to mute you, Justin, while I'm speaking, just because I think that echoes come back. If you, while I'm speaking, if you could try and maybe fix your headphones so it comes through the headphones, that'd be great. And so, yeah, look at the actions. You've got Israeli Muslims who are in government. You've got a Muslim party that's going to join the government. You've got hundreds of mosques across Israel. You've got our holiest site, Bayt al-Maqdis, the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, or the temple where the temple stood, the Temple Mount. That today, Qubbat al-Sakra, the Dome on the Rock, and Masjid Al-Aqsa, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, sit on its site where the temple once sat. That's our holiest site in the whole world. And yet Jews can't pray there, and millions of Muslims pray there every year. And so if you truly believe, as a Muslim, not you, but as a Muslim truly believes that Jews or Zionism is there to destroy the Islamic faith, don't trust what's coming out of our mouths. Look at our actions in the state of Israel, where Muslims have greater freedoms to practice their faith there than anywhere else in the Middle East. It doesn't matter whether you're Shia or Sunni, you get treated exactly the same as a Jew, a Christian, or as your co-religionist. So yeah, the very, very simple answer is look at what Israel's doing. Zionism holds no malice towards Islam. In fact, on a personal level, I believe we have so much in common that there's a great foundation to build on top of, to build peaceful relations, to build bridges amongst our communities, and get back to some of the golden areas rather than this tragic era we're in at the moment, where Muslims and Jews feel pitted against one another.
Thank you so much. The second question I would like to ask is, when are you going? I mean, sorry if I say you or us, but I have to do it this way. When are you going to start talking to people who have the key of the real problem, the real key of the problem? Like, because until now, you are reaching out to a group of, Israel is reaching out to a group of people who have the political matter in hand, like the Palestinian Authority. But we see when the conflict happened, it's always 2 billion person that they get involved. It's not only the people you keep talking to all the time. It's not the moderate Muslim. It's not the cool Muslim. It's not the ex-Muslim. It's not, it's like, when are you going to address the Salafi hardcore and challenge them with the Quran and Sunnah against what they accuse you for?
So I believe that, I don't know if Alexander has any thoughts, but I believe those conversations are already taking place. So I would describe the Islamist party I just described, Muslim Brotherhood, as being pretty Salafi. I would look towards the relations that Israel's now having with, and I'm just going to mute you again, Justin, just while you're not talking. Apologies. I would look at the relations Israel's forging with the Gulf states, hopefully with Saudi Arabia. There will be public relations in the near future. And I would say most of these nations and political entities that Israel is now engaging with are often on the Salafi spectrum rather than one of the more moderate denominations. I, on a personal level, would draw the line at talking to groups like Hamas. I draw the line at talking to Iran in there, unless their rhetoric changes, and then obviously I'd be more than happy to extend the hand of peace. But their rhetoric at the moment is our destruction, and that doesn't make for fertile, peaceful relations. I don't know, Alexander, if you've got anything you'd like to add to what I said.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. One is that within Israel, there's a dialogue between Jews and Arabs that's just like goes on every day. That's just regular coexistence for most of the population. Like if you live in Tel Aviv, or you live in Haifa, or you live in Jerusalem, then, and they're the three biggest cities in Israel. You live in Binyamin, or you live in Lud. You live in these places. These are they're mixed cities. There's Jews and Arabs living there, living alongside each other. It's mainly 364 days of the year, everyone gets along fine and there's no problems. So those conversations are already happening on a day-to-day level, and that's one of the things that actually makes Israel possible, is the fact that there is a functioning social and civil society where people can actually get together and talk about things, and a lot of the time the political conversation is something that kind of gets pushed to the back burner because people just get on with life. And that's kind of, in some ways, what's happening now with the new government, where the all the parties involved seem to be saying, look, there's stuff that we disagree on, but let's just get together and work on the stuff that we all agree on, and that's common to Jews and Arabs, and I think that's only a good thing, first of all. But in terms of dealing with the more extreme elements, like the religious elements, I think there is a dialogue between religious Jews and religious Muslims within the settlement movement. That's often obscured and something that doesn't get talked about very much, because the idea, or what the West, I don't want to say the Western media or use these kind of catchphrases, but what tends to get reported is the sort of the conflict. They don't like to report on good news. So there's emphasis on the conflict between Jews and Arabs in Israel, and there's very much a lack of coverage of the kind of good stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't really know about unless you actually live in Israel.
I'm just going to jump in. I just noticed there's lots of questions coming through in the comments. If you're on YouTube and you want to guarantee your question get asked, just drop us a super chat, which is a monetary payment of any amount. Drop a little note in there with your question, and we'll make sure that either I, Alexander, or Jassim answer it towards the end. So yeah, if you're on YouTube, you can use super chats, and it just guarantees we see the questions because there's a lot fly through. Okay, Jassim, I'm going to unmute you.
Okay. Muslims, they have different sects and different ideologies and different school of thought. But whenever you speak to someone that speaks on behalf or try to sell their idea or their explanation, they are clear about what they want. They will tell you what they believe is going to happen from now until the end of the days, whatever the diversion is. With the Jews, we don't understand what is. I mean, it's our fault. I'm not saying that you should come and tell us, but we don't know nothing about. I mean, within the Muslim community, we only know the negative things that the Quran said about some of the Banu Israel. Some of. There's a repetition of this some of. So we only know the negative things. Today, as a Muslim, I want to understand when I see Jewish people going to pray in the Al-Aqsa, I want to understand what is it that you want. Is it going to stop to this level, or you're hoping it's going to develop to have your own share, or to have it all back? What are your plans?
Okay, so I understand your question. I think it's a concern for every Muslim not every Muslim, but a lot of Muslims, because they hear us talking about the third temple, and they're like, wait a minute, isn't our mosque on the site of your second temple? So if you want a third temple, what happens to our mosque? It's where the second temple was. And truthfully, they're kind of right, but they're wrong. So Judaism teaches, we have a belief that one of the signs of the Mashiach, well, this is according to Harambam in the Mishnah Torah, but effectively, one of the signs of the Messiah is that he will rebuild the temple. And so that's so in Islam you have, and the Mashiach or the Messiah is closer to Al-Mahdi than to Isa, to Jesus, in terms of what the Mahdi will do compared to what the Messiah will do. In Jewish tradition, they're very similar. Whoops, my camera's gone. No, it's back. And so the site on which Masjid Al-Aqsa and Qubbat al-Sakhra, the Golden Dome, sit is vast. So first and foremost, there's enough space there for everybody. I apologize, I'll fix my camera in a minute, but you should still be able to hear me. There we go, perfect. The site of, there's enough space for everybody on there. The first thing to establish is Judaism recognizes Islam as a monotheistic faith. We all believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so we have no qualms with Muslims praying there, which is why Muslims pray there every day of every year. The second thing is that when we had our temple, it was for all the nations. It wasn't just for the Jews. So if I as a Jew cannot pray at the Kaaba, which is why maybe it confuses some Muslims, But you as a Muslim can pray at my temple. If there were a temple at that site, there was a gallery for all the nations to come and visit and to come and pray. And the third thing is where we believe the Holy of Holies was, so the most important point of the temple. That's actually where the Dome of the Rock is, whereas which is a shrine in Islam. It isn't actually Masjid Al-Aqsa. The mosque, which is important to Muslims, is way over in the corner, and that area is actually not the primary place of prayer for Jews. And so, to wrap that all up, when it comes to building the third temple, we believe as Jews that space is for everybody, for all of humanity to pray. We don't believe in destroying holy sites in Israel, which is why churches, mosques, and everything else still stands. If we wanted to destroy Masjid Al-Aqsa, we destroy Masjid Al-Aqsa. We've got the means to, but we don't, because we recognize the importance to the Ummah. And so there's no desire to destroy either of the buildings. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people on the fringes of Jewish society who hold extreme views, just like in Islam, you have people on the fringes who have extreme views as well. But I'm talking about the overwhelming majority of religious Jews have no desire whatsoever to see the destruction of the mosque. They do, however, and we all do, pray to see the rebuilding of the temple. And so hopefully that provides the answer that you're looking for. And the reason why we're not building it is that it's the Messiah, the Mashiach, who leads the building of that temple. And so when that comes, our belief is there's going to be world peace, and there's going to be everyone will be very happy, and we'll all be saying La ilaha illallah, but in Hebrew, Shema Yisrael. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Second question.
Jassim is muted, so we can't hear Jassim at the moment. Jassim, can you start again?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me
again?
Yeah. Thank you. You did answer the question, which lead to the next one. What, as a convinced Zionist, as a person, as a gentleman, as someone that I can trust, I'm asking you, what do you think? What is the solution that you propose? Because you talked about is about prophecies, about theology, about things that most of them I believe. So in the status quo, how far are you going to? How are you willing to go? How much are you willing to give up to achieve that peace? The situation as it is now is too much complicated. When you talk about the temple, in my belief, there is an issue of religion, of religious practice. If we manage to solve the dispute around the Al-Aqsa, we will have a lot of problems. So are you willing to accept to pray in a place that it doesn't belong to you, you don't have sovereignty of, or it has to be part of under your political dominion?
So just if I can clarify the question, are you saying would we or would Zionists be prepared to waive or give up sovereignty over the old city of Jerusalem? Is that your
No,
question?
I was talking about the holy site where the Rock of the Dome. I know it's in the hand of Jordan,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying, Al-Aqsa, what I'm saying, like eventually, let's say if Jordan allow Jewish people to take like a quarter of it or third of it, will that solve the question, or it will be still a problem of sovereignty?
Okay, so we separate. I mean, I can't. I'm going to speak for myself here because I don't know if Joe will agree with me, but I suspect that he'll agree with most of what I'm going to say. Because we separate the sort of religious questions from the political questions. So, like, what's going to happen at the end of history in terms of what we call Har HaBayit and what Muslims call Haram al-Sharif is like a theological question. Like, we believe basically that you can, my personal belief is that the Muslims are going to be begging us to use the gold from the Dome of the Rock to decorate the temple, because that's how, when the Moshiach comes, there's going to be such peace, and the Muslim community will see it as a huge honor to have a part in building the temple. So the conflict that we see now over Har HaBayit, over the Temple Mount, is a political conflict. Part of that's to do with political Islam, but in terms of a final reconciliation on that matter, I think we can wait. Or my personal opinion is that that's something that will wait until the days of Mashiach. In terms of political sovereignty, for me personally, it's an issue to give up. I'm sort of. I think that the status quo is more or less acceptable to most people in Israel. There are people that would like Jewish prayer rights on the Temple Mount for the moment, which is something that I would agree with. Joe putting his hand up. I'll let you come in a minute. So there's the issue of prayer rights is something I personally would like to see Jews allowed to pray, but it's such a politically sensitive site that I think it's something which, it's not the most important thing.
The Arab side. The Arab side speaks about peace, land in exchange of peace, which is something I find awful, because peace has to be the aim of every believer, regardless of what you get in exchange. So, are you prepared to exchange religion, to trade religion for sovereignty? Are you allowed to accept to have access to pray and to worship Hashem the way you do?
Okay. So I was about to get there. The problem for me is historically, when Jews have given control of our holy sites to non-Jewish authorities, we haven't been able to exercise our rights. So, for example, if you look at the original 1949 armistice agreements, it's supposed to allow for Jews to go to the Western Wall to pray, and the Jordanians basically from day one just totally ignored that provision of the armistice agreement. So because it's only under Israeli sovereignty that there's full religious freedom, and this excludes the other religious sites that are under Palestinian Authority control. So, for example, the tomb of the prophet Joseph, not the Joseph that we're joined with this evening, a different Joseph. His tomb is in the city of Nablus, the biblical city of Shechem, and that is regularly set on fire by Palestinians. And that is it's a grave of one of our ancestors. The same with Rachel's tomb which is on the way to Bethlehem, and that's also regularly vandalized by Palestinians. So because of those issues, it's very difficult for me to see a situation where I would be willing to, if you like, trust the goodwill of the opposing side that they're going to live up to their agreements. So that's my position. I'm sure Joe's got something else to say.
I mean, my finger wasn't the Shahada finger, and it wasn't asking a question. It was just I'm somebody that would like to see Jews being able to pray on the Temple Mount without that's causing a riot and some granny getting attacked in Haifa because some Jew had the audacity to say the Shema at our holiest site. Truthfully, Jews are divided. Orthodox Jews are divided as to whether a Jew is permitted to pray on the Temple Mount without the temple there. So there are those that believe we shouldn't and those that believe we should. I'm in the camp that believes we should be able to pray there, and we are permitted halakhically to pray there, provided we follow all the laws of taharat, which I know you know the word just then because it's the same word in Arabic, all the laws of purity for praying on the Temple Mount. So yeah, as for the question of sovereignty, I largely agree. I think under Islam, Jews have been denied for the most part from praying on the Temple Mount. Now there have been caliphs who've allowed and permitted Jews to pray there, but I don't think it should be something that we're allowed to do. It's like it would be like a Jew being in control of not just Khaybar, but being in control of Mecca and Medina and the Kaaba, and then the Muslim coming to the Jew and asking the Jew, can he pray at the Kaaba? It's the wrong question. Like, it's not for the Jew to grant the Muslim permission to pray at the Muslim's holiest site, and it's not for the Muslim to permit or deny, which in many cases deny, the Jews the right to pray at our holiest site. And it's a site that we all agree is the site that's holy to Jews. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay. Thank you very much for the answers. My next question will be, if you ask me about what we do in Mecca, what are the rituals, what is the geographical area and everything, I can go on talking for hours. I will tell you in details what we do with evidence and everything. Do you have something similar in Judaism? Do you know where the borders of your haram, your sanctuary, where it starts, where it ends, and in which case is it affected by the existence of Al-Aqsa? Are you willing to accept half of the space, quarter of the space, none of the space, all of the space?
So someone said something. Truthfully, I don't think we know the dimensions of what the temple were, where it stood. We know it stood on the elevated platform that exists today. I'm the wrong person to ask for the actual intricacies of what was where. I can get those answers for you and send them separately, but it's not an area I've studied in a great deal. I will tell you that I spotted an interesting comment that was posted before, which I didn't know, and maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. But we had, as I mentioned before, there was a gallery for the nation. So the way the temple was structured, there were different sections for different denominations or categories of Jews. Like there was the place with the Holy of Holies, which only the high priest could enter. There was all different areas. But there was, as I mentioned, there was the gallery for the nations, where the entire world could come and take part and observe the temple service. And I just heard that the Gallery for the Nations is actually where Masjid Al-Aqsa stood. That's what somebody in the comments said. So I want to check that, because that actually answers your question perfectly. There'd be no issue with Masjid Al-Aqsa standing there, because it's effectively where the non-Jews would go anyway.
So you are passing the boiled potato to us. Now you take what you had, and now we have to. Thank you. So my last question will be, I'm involved in thinking and rethinking education, Islamic education for adults and for kids and youngsters. What is it that you would like to see taught in our Islamic schools that would alleviate the tension? And how far should we go in teaching? And how far are you willing to go in teaching about us?
So I know that, for example, like in a lot of I don't know if you know this, in a lot of Jewish schools, since the British government made the change so that if you're having a religious education classes, you have to teach another religious tradition. So a lot of Jewish schools started teaching Islam, because that is the closest religion to our own religion. That's one thing. In terms of schools, what do we think could be taught? It's actually a really difficult question. I would like to see some kind of module on anti-Semitism, but the thing that always I hear the voice warning me in the back of my mind is that something like that, with the given sort of, if it became part of the national curriculum, could kind of fuel the narrative that the Jews have too much power. Like, look at what they're trying to impose into our schools by teaching us about their history and etc. etc. So I think it's quite a delicate balance to be struck. I'd certainly like to be able to, for example, like people like myself and Joseph, to be able to go into Muslim schools and speak to Muslim school children. I used to be a teacher, so I've worked in schools before. And just to be able to go and have a dialogue with people, like we're doing now with three reasonable people just having a conversation. And I'd like the opportunity, personally, I think that a lot of good can be done just from, sitting down and actually talking to each other. I think this is one of the biggest things that is missing in the sort of wider. I'll give you an example. When I was a teacher, there was one student who, when I came to the class, it was just before Eid. It was the first class of the year. And I saw this guy looking at me very strangely throughout it's a Bengali boy, looking at me very strangely throughout the class. And I could see almost like the cogs going in his brain, where he's trying to put together everything he's ever heard about Jews on the one hand, and then he's got me standing in front of him, and he doesn't quite know how everything all fits together. And I said to the class at the end of the class, I wished them all. I said, look, I'm not going to see you till next week. I know Eid is going to be on whenever it was, Wednesday or Thursday. So I'd just like to wish everybody who's celebrating a happy Eid. And as he came past me on the way out, his comment to me was, "You didn't really mean that, did you?" And which I did. Of course, I did mean it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is that Jews are such a small minority that the chances are that I'm going to pluck a figure out of thin air, but a large majority of people who have opinions about Jews have probably never even spoken to a Jew, and so that dialogue is a really important place to start.
So my camera's just gone. Okay, let's fix that. And that's completely gone.
Okay.
2 minutes.
We can still hear you, Joe. So, so
there we go. I'm back. Okay, so yeah, what I was going to say is, for me, it's a really good question. It actually stopped me, and I had to really think about. And I think it kind of divides into two categories. And so I'm going to focus to begin with on the more obvious category, and Alexander Menashe touched on it. In my experience, most Muslims, and I say most Jews as well when it comes to Judaism, but most Muslims have rose-tinted glasses of their own faith and their own history. And there is a mistaken belief that Jews and Muslims coexisted in perfect harmony, and no Muslim ever oppressed a Jew, and any oppression that did happen was completely deserved and warranted, and that the Jews either betrayed the community or whatever it may be. And so the first thing I would like Muslims to understand, it's happened in Europe. Europe has come to terms with its own actions of persecution of the Jews, be it the Inquisitions, the Crusades, the Holocaust, and there's awareness of what was done. And there's also awareness of when it was good in Europe. So there was many Polish kings, for instance, who were very good to the Jewish people. They brought them back into Poland, and that's why Poland came to be one of the biggest the biggest Jewish population in the world. But Poland was also terrible to Jews a few centuries later. So I think the first thing is for Muslims to understand that the reason the Jews either fled or were thrown out of the Muslim world was because of the intense persecution that they'd experienced over the centuries. So it's a little self-awareness, but then similarly to celebrate the good times and recognize the Khulafa, the caliphates that were good to the Jews. I mean, it was Jews that, it was a Jewish general, for instance, that crossed over from Northern Africa, your neck of the woods, if I remember correctly, Jassim, into Al-Andalus. Ka'ula al-Yahudi led the charge. There were many Jews in very prominent positions within Al-Andalus. So Al-Andalus is a great example of Jewish and Muslim coexistence. What followed Al-Andalus was the Almohads, who were terrible to the Jews and massacred hundreds of thousands of us. And so I think the first thing is that awareness. And that's like the easy thing, because from that we can build honest relations between Jews and Muslims, and it's a real fertile platform to build upon in terms of coexistence and peace. But then it got me thinking about, well, what are the other issues within Islam? And I think when you look at other religions, and I'm going to use the term loosely because I don't mean it in the way it will sound, but other religions, including Judaism, went through reformations. And so when I say reformation, I think the biggest reformation the Jewish people went through was codified in the Talmud, which I and all Orthodox Jews followed. And most of the practices that the Jews follow today are codified in the Talmud. Obviously, the constitution, the foundation of all Jewish law is the Torah. Christianity went through many reformations. Islam has never been through any reformation. Now, reformation doesn't mean going to the Quran and saying the Quran isn't from Allah, which all Muslims believe it is. Similarly, a reformation of Judaism wasn't going and saying the Torah isn't min hashemayah, from heaven, because we believe it is from heaven if you're Orthodox. But in terms of the practices and the flexibility and the ability of that faith to adapt to the generation it's existing in. I think Islam has bigger issues in that world, and so for me, how that reflects today is how do you adapt to the modern world? And so when you have people who are saying, living in the UK and coming out and saying it's haram for a Muslim to vote in a democracy, it's permissible. I don't want to go exactly. And so that's my thing, Justin. My thing is that it's not just about like labels like moderate and extremist. I like you. I don't like many of these terms, but what I would like to see is seeing some sort of reformation in the same way that Christianity went through a reformation and Judaism went through its reformation. I'd like to see something of that nature occurring within Islam.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I just want to give my opinion about what you said, because I find both sides of the diversity is something beautiful, and I think this is what makes resilience of all religions. Both of you gave two different perspectives to what education should be, based on your own experience, your own, For regarding the Islam, what you said about Islam, the problem that Islam, since it came last, and since it kept growing, and when you kept growing, you don't really feel the need to do better. That's quite problematic. Like, because if we started shrinking and we started being persecuted, it happened towards our history, and in separated the periods, like imperialism and stuff. But it wasn't that major challenge to our ideology or theology or growth. Something I personally dislike, because I don't like big numbers. I like more quality. I'd like to say more proper believers than big numbers that, So to get to the point, I like what you discussed, and this is exactly what this is the strength of the dialogue between Zionism, Judaism, Islam, and political Islam. This is our strength, that we can really build something challenging. I'm not sure if we will see the fruit of this in our lifetime, but if we don't start today, the people who will come after us, they will have to put more time to get this work done. In my case, if you want to take my own experience, I was blessed to be taught not Islam, but how to think, how to learn. It's the methodology, and this is something lacking in our Islamic teaching, traditional teaching. We don't teach the kids the methodology, how to learn. We teach them what we believe to be the correct Islam. If you send me, it's like responsibility. If you send me your kids to teach the Quran, I'll try to teach them what I believe to be correct. It's not like because I want to brainwash them, but because I truly believe this is the correct one. So I pass it on to them. Whereas we need to teach the kids the methodology on how to learn, how to debate, how to absorb the information that they receive from scholars and from. We respect the scholars, but we need to question them. Respect doesn't mean I give you carte blanche. Whatever you say, I will pass it. And I am pleased to tell you that probably I'm not sure. One of my nieces is considering to study Jewish studies in university, and she is Muslim. And I will be pleased if she get to that point and she can go into that to learning experience. And also, I would like to see more Jewish youngsters learning Islam. I would love to see a Jewish person knowledgeable about Islam to the point that they can debate with a Muslim scholar or even with the Muslim ordinary people, like the era of Mamonide. We don't have Mamonide. We don't have those scholars who used to write and think in Arabic and talk to us and debate us. This is what we need. We need to create a generation of people who, because the Prophet ﷺ, he says, speak to the people the way they comprehend and put them in to where they belong. If I talk to you, you see the problem with the political Islam in Europe, that they learn the language of these people. They learn the language of the West, and they know how to talk to the West. They use terminologies like democracy, human rights. Sometimes they don't believe in these components, but they know how to dialogue with the Western people. They know how to win the hearts and the minds. And I think Jewish people, because you are 15 million, you are more required to learn about us and to try I want to see scholars, Jewish scholars, Zionists who talk to us the way we understand. I don't have to stay there and correct them and try to, because there are a lot of people who talk in good faith, but I can't pick up errors in what they say. I can't pick up problematic things. I know they don't mean to offend. They don't mean to discredit Islam. They don't mean, but there is a lack of knowledge, and inshallah this is going to happen with time. Only if you want it.
Yeah,
Yes,
I get. Sorry.
Are you familiar with Dr. Mordechai Kadar?
I was thinking about him when I was talking, when I was saying what I was saying. He came to my mind. See, someone like Dr. Mordechai Kadar, he's very knowledgeable. Who I am to question his knowledge, or to even comment on his knowledge. But as a Muslim, when I listen to him talking, there is a lot of rhetoric in what he says. There's a lot of, if you weigh what he say to the traditional Islam, there are a lot of errors, misunderstanding. So we appreciate his speech can be acceptable to the Western person or to the Jewish person who is also keen to learn about Islam and he want to find a solution. But lot of, I think he's following me, by the way. A lot of things he said it based on academic perspective, which is like, okay, the critical thinking, the archaeological evidence, and the scriptural concepts. All these things are good. They are part of the debate, but they're not the only things. So, for example, when talking about the Al-Aqsa, the debate about the Al-Aqsa is not what it is now. I mean, this is something. This is a big topic going on, and it becomes a trend. But as I explained to one of my friends last day, as I said, the quickest way to understand it is, for Jewish people, there is nothing yours right now there. There's no temple, there's no synagogue, there's nothing. There's only the Rock of Dome and the Aqsa. But yet you consider it holy, you consider it your own site. But for Muslims, it's the same thing. We believe it is the same spot of the Jewish one. This is our evidence. We believe, because our holy place is what the Jewish people believe to be their holy place. This is what the Quran says. There is nothing here to debate. There's no archaeological evidence needed. Even if you find 5, 6, 10, there are some people who think Jesus is buried in India. There is no end to the belief. So for me, the evidence is, because it is your holy site, it is also my holy site, because I claim that my religion comes from yours. You understand? So this is exactly what I'm saying. So to get to this point, to have the ability to communicate with Muslims, I'm sure we will have a lot of shortcuts.
Cool. So what I'm now going to do, because I think it'll be quite interesting, some really good conversation and questions coming through from the chat. So if people want to fire off questions to any of either myself, Alexander, or Jassim, just fire in your question, say who it's addressed to. If you want to guarantee you get it asked, make sure you drop the super chat, but we'll try and answer all the questions anyway. The super chats help to pay for StreamYard and things like that. So
wait a minute. If you are a Zionist, you are a Jew, you need to support Israel advocacy movement. You support Joseph Cohen, because he's doing an amazing job, and I wish we had a Salafi version of him. Unfortunately, we don't have.
Jazakallahu. I can always shave off the moustache.
You can do some overtime, yeah?
Moonlighting.
Okay, so the first question that's come through is from Cracked Kai. Navia River, yeah, you can ask a question. Anyone just fire your questions. If you want to guarantee gets asked, drop us a super chat, but otherwise just fire away. So first question from Cracked Kai is, do you all think a two-state solution will ever happen? And I'll let the others answer this.
So, Jassim, you want to go first? Please, you're the guest.
Yeah.
So.
My point of view can sound a bit controversial, but as a Muslim, I think our religion was not coded, was not created. You can call it the way you want. It was not revealed for us to with the prescribed system of government. I think Islam is compatible with Muslim when they are minorities, when they are persecuted, when they are in prison, when they are in freedom, when they are rich, when they are poor, when they have a state, when they are stateless. So I don't see the need for a Muslim to have another state. And I am more than happy for the Muslim minority, the Israeli Muslims, to live freely in their country and to worship Allah the way they believe, and to lobby for the interest of. Also, we lobby for their interest from outside. We can support them without them having a state. We don't need another flag. We don't need another government. We don't need another dictatorship. So for me, Israel is free from the river to the sea.
Cool. So this is a question for you, Justin, and that is:
I'm not allowed to answer.
Oh, sorry. So you can answer as well. I said I'll put this question away.
So I think the important thing for me is is it the two-state solution? And the important word in that question is solution. I don't think that two states is a solution to the conflict, because in a large part that's been shown to be something that the Palestinian Arabs don't want to see. They've been offered it on 6 different occasions and they've turned it down every time. So if you're trying to tell me that that's a solution to the conflict, my question is, what's different now that means that Palestinian Arabs are now interested in that as a solution to the conflict, when they haven't shown any interest in that in the past? And in fact, it's not that they haven't even shown interest, they violently resisted that outcome. And the main political forces, even to this day, what's the main political force in Palestinian politics? It's Hamas, and they are violently opposed to two-state solution. So, or to two states. Their idea of a solution is one Islamic state from the river to the sea. So that's my answer.
Okay, next question, and this is not to you, Alexander, so no, you can't answer this one. Are Muslims waiting for a Jewish Messiah too? And that was from Craig Lewis.
Yeah, the answer is that the Jewish Messiah we are waiting for is the Jesus Christ, peace upon him. So we made it even more complicated. So we combined the Jewish belief with the Christian belief, and so basically what we believe, the Messiah alayhi salam is Jesus, son of Maryam, the Virgin. This is what we believe. And he was not crucified. Someone else was crucified on his behalf, and so we acquitted the allegations against the Jew now that they killed Jesus. And so someone was clever to solve that dilemma as well. So if someone tell you killed Jesus, you can tell him no, he didn't even die. You know, he's in the sky, and this is what 2 billion people believe. So there's no problem. So we believe he will come back. This is the Messiah we are expecting. We believe his return, peace be upon him. And prior to his return, after his return, there will be certain events of apostasy amongst Muslims and Jews and Christians. The famous hadith that speaks about the Jewish people who will be hiding behind the trees and the rocks in Jerusalem. That hadith refers to a group of Jews from Asfahan, not every Jewish person, who will apostate and will be fighting with the Antichrist. This is theology. There are no scientific evidence to support this. We just base it on the belief that people who told us that they were righteous.
Can I ask you a follow-up to that? Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, Joseph. So what's the difference between this Messiah that you said you're expecting and the Mahdi? Is it the same person or is it a different person?
No, the Messiah we're expecting, Masih alayhi salam, is the same that Christians believe to be. He was the Son of God. It's the same prophet. We believe he's still alive. The Mahdi is another one of the signs of the return of the Messiah. Someone will return, will come after. There are different versions, different beliefs, but more or less, we believe that he will fight the Antichrist, and he's one of the signs of the end of the day. The Shia goes further in this belief, and they develop it further, and I think this when it becomes very, very problematic, because they believe that their 12th Imam is the Mahdi. So they believe that the 12th Imam, the Imam Ghaib, they believe the Imam he he's hiding somewhere and he's ruling the world. And this is when create problematic of shirk of, we start debating about if he rules the world. So is he God? Is he with God? Is he power? So this is what makes it a bit complicated. So for the Shia, the Mahdi is not the same for the Sunnah. I would say for the Sunnah, the Mahdi is not as relevant for the Shia, but both of us, we believe in the return of the Masih, alayhi salam, except for the Ahmadiyya, who believe that Jesus is birthed in India. So as you can see, it's endless. That's theology.
Yes, beauty of religion. So next question's for me. So I'm going to answer that one. Israel advocacy, Joe. Only my family gets to call me Joe, by the way. Are you going to come back to Speaker's Corner? So the answer is very simple. I have challenged both Ali Dawah and Mohammed Hijab on numerous occasions to debate me one-on-one rather than one-on 100. There's a lot of violent extremists at Speaker's Corner who attack me pretty much every time I go now. And I don't really want to fight 100 people. I have been hitting the gym recently, and even then, I'm not going to take down 100. And Mohammed himself is a big guy, Mohammed Hijab. But I challenge him both separately on numerous occasions to a one-on-one debate. Ali Dawah tweeted me the other day and said he doesn't sit down and debate with Zionists. So I think he called us baby killers. And the twist here is he actually ended a video he made about me saying I was afraid to come to Speaker's Corner because I was an, in quotes, intellectual or an academic eunuch. I can't remember which it was. And so, Ali, I'll put it out there again. If you're watching this, Mr. Dawah, one-on-one, not one-on 100. You jump on my channel. We'll debate Israel-Palestine. I'll educate you. I'll send you. But I'm not going to go to Speaker's Corner anytime soon. It's a violent place full of extremists, and a number of them I've been warned by people within the security services want to do me serious harm. And so I think I'll pass for now. Okay, so our next question is, I'm just going to scroll down. Bear with me.
If you want us to see your question, clearly send us a super chat. That's the easiest way for us to find your question. Or tweet us. Tweet either at Alexander Menashe or at Israel_advocacy. Then we can find your questions.
Okay, so we've answered this question already. So Insani asks, do we support the building of the Jewish temple at Al-Aqsa? Watch the debate again. We clearly say that Masjid Al-Aqsa is actually the other side to it's where the gallery for the nation stood that was open for everybody to pray. And there's no desire from any Jew today or for most Jews today to destroy Masjid Al-Aqsa. There is a desire to build a third temple, but at that time there'll be world peace. So there was a great conversation at the beginning. You missed it. Rewatch it. So next question. And maybe either of you can take this. Is there a Shia influence now in Palestine amidst the support they are now getting from Iran?
Yes, definitely there is. And the reason behind that is just because the so-called Palestinian cause, Sunni government, I'm not here to speak on behalf of the government, but I can say in generally the Sunni-led countries, they had enough of this story and they withdraw the support for the Palestinians because also there is a link between, this is one of the things I'm trying to study in my PhD, inshallah, if I will go for one. There's a link between the Palestinian cause and terrorism, radicalization. So the Sunni countries, they had enough of this and they cut the support for a lot of groups, and those groups, they found support in Iran, and there is an influence, but I will not say there is influence to the extent that Sunnis are accepting Tashayyu. We didn't get to that stage yet, but there's a lot of acceptance for the model of the rhetoric of the promoted by Iran today, that Israel should be destroyed and we will pray in the Aqsa, all these things. So there's great acceptance for that, and I'm really worried for the kids, for the young generation, that could be very problematic.
Okay, so the next question is actually again for you, Jassem. just getting back to the holy sites. Obviously, you discussed the Temple Mount and your views on regarding the holy site to both. Regard the site holy to both Judaism and Islam. But do you hold similar position on the tomb cave of the patriarchs in Hebron? And the question for all is: should this site be divided into two sides or made into an open site for all? So, first question to you, Justin. What's the position on the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron?
The position on, sorry?
The cave of the patriarchs, where Ibrahim alayhi salam is buried in Hebron.
What I will say is based on my belief and my understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected if I make any mistake. So I'm not pretending that everything I say is the truth. If anyone have evidence to prove that what I said is wrong, is welcome to challenge me about it. Before I say that, I need just to make sure that when I speak about Tashayyu, I don't see Muslims accepting Tashayyu as a problem in itself. It doesn't bother me if someone is Shia or Sunni. It doesn't bother me at all. What bothers me is the political use of Tashayyu the use of Tashayyu for political aims. So I always distinguish between Shia and Rafidism. If you see my tweets, I never tweet about Shia. I always tweet about Rafidi. So that's just to clarify, because I have friends and brothers and teachers who are Shia, just to make sure that no one is upset. For the mosque in Hebron, I believe personally that there is only one holy site for Muslims, which is Mecca, and the second one is Medina, and the third one, which is the Haram al-Qudsi, which is not necessarily a mosque. There are no rituals. There's nothing prescribed in our Sunnah, nothing that the Salaf Salih did. We don't have any evidence about, like, if I go to Mecca, I know what I will be doing from London to Mecca and way back. I know everything according to the Quran and Sunnah. If I go to Jerusalem, I will be looking for a nice kebab shop, or I will be having a chat with a friend. There's nothing for me that I have to do. Except for there is nothing that I can do in Al-Quds that I cannot do in East London Mosque. It's exactly the same. I believe there's more merit for me to pray in Al-Quds, but having said that, it's not like an obligation. There's not a ritual. So anything outside this, for me, we are getting into the zone of shrines and shirk and it's like we talk about Karbala, all these things. So you can make up your own belief, but don't impose it on 2 billion Muslims.
So I'm in a minority. I'm closer to the Salafis when it comes to praying at graves. Harambam, Maimonides, is explicit. Then the Talmud, I believe, is explicit that we're not supposed to pray at graves. That's one of the reasons why we don't know where Moses is buried, is so that people wouldn't go to his grave and pray there. But however, I'm a minority, and most Jews go on pilgrimage to graves, and they're not praying to the dead people; they're praying in the merit. So they're praying to God, but they're praying at the grave. Just because I'm conscious of time, I'm just going to quickly answer. There was a second question, which was, what do we think about the mosque being divided for Jews and Muslims? I think the cave of the patriarchs, the mosque, the synagogue, the Kaaba, is one of the most tragic symbols of the conflict, because you can look through bulletproof glass through a window and see a Muslim praying on the other side, and a Muslim can look through bulletproof window and see a Jew praying on the other side of the thing, and there is nothing uglier than a holy site being divided by bulletproof glass. However, it is a necessity because of the level of violence that has been the cave of the patriarchs has experienced, has witnessed. Hebron is one of the most violent places in Judea and Samaria in the West Bank. It's always a flashpoint of violence, and it's a tragedy because you've got the children, or the great grandchildren of Abraham Avinu, praying in a site where they're separated by bulletproof glass because the situation is so tense. There's an awful lot of questions. I think we'll end on 2 more questions, and then we'll close it up because we've already hit an hour. So we'll go with Amir Sader's first question, and either of you are welcome to take this. What is the key to solving the problem with Islamic extremism? Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, the list goes on. What can be done to de-radicalize? And that's coming from Amir Sadeh.
Should I answer, or you want to go, Alex?
You go first, and then I'll see
Yeah.
what you think to add.
Yeah. What the question was about terrorism. Terrorism has become, in my opinion, one of man-made ways of doing warfare. It can be used by states, it can be used by individuals, it can be used by groups. The question is not what to do with Islamic terrorism. The question is what to do with terrorism in general, because there is a course in King's College about terrorism, security, and society, and there are a lot of material online about the complexity of terrorism. From the Islamic perspective, our solution is education and law enforcement. I think I keep saying Sharia for terrorists will be the solution. Unfortunately, we cannot try terrorists according to the Sharia. So if we can't do that, we need to try to educate them according to the Sharia. So from our side, we don't have any other solution besides education.
Yeah, I think that was basically what my answer was going to be: education. There needs to be decent education, and it comes back into actually to something you were speaking about before. Actually teaching people, like my subject, I used to teach philosophy, so I'm very interested in teaching people not what to think, but actually how to think and how to approach things critically, how to analyze an argument, how to deconstruct it, how to basically break it down to its premises, and to see, what you agree on, what you disagree on. So I guess I would like to see something, maybe some compulsory philosophy courses in the Middle East. I don't know what could be taught. I have to confess, I'm not an expert in Islamic philosophy. I've only studied Western and Indian philosophy, but I've never studied Islamic philosophy, so that's not something I can comment on the intricacies of it. But something.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that's all.
Yeah, okay. So you've got two more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. I know I said that before, but one of them's quite. I think it's a good mirror to the other question, and it's what can be done to. One of the questions is what can be done to quell Jewish extremism, Joseph. And so the first thing I'm going to say, and it may be something some will disagree with, but I don't. I don't believe Judaism has the same problem of extremism that unfortunately Islam suffers from. Now, that may be a numbers thing. It may be because we're only 15 million compared to 1.7 billion. It's much more, Islamic extremism is much more visible. But I think by and large, Judaism is a religion of moderation and taking the middle path and not going to the extremities. I think we do have extremists. There are people who've carried out violence against innocent civilians in the name of Judaism. Like we were literally talking about the Cave of the Patriarchs. There was a man here, a religious Jew, who went into there and gunned down Muslims while they were praying. There's no justification for that. And there may be events that led him to do that. Like there are events that lead Muslim terrorists to do what they did. But taking the lives of innocents when they're praying, for me, is unjustifiable. When it comes to quelling extremism, I think we actually do a very good job of that. That's why I think Judaism doesn't suffer from the same problems of extremism as some other faiths. I think the biggest divide we're seeing in Israeli society is amongst the secular and the religious. And for me, I believe that's where the attention needs to be spent, and that is working on actually improving coexistence amongst the different Jewish streams, amongst the secular and the religious, because they're polarizing. And I think if that continues, that could create issues of extremism as two communities repel away from each other. Alexander, I don't know if you've got anything you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I think the issue is a general one, which is that there's a we live in a very polarized age. It seems like there's like on every issue there's two camps, and you're either in one or another. And if you're like the three of us and you're actually interested in in having a conversation, it's actually very difficult to find people who are willing to just have an honest conversation, and also even with when the camera's on, to admit that something they found something thought-provoking or something that challenged them, or something that even God forbid changed their mind. So for me, the extremism that is most in Judaism is not, thank God, a violent extremism. That's very much a small fringe, certainly in the diaspora, but also it's a fringe within Israeli society. The problem is the extremism, for me, is the extremism of someone who says that you're wearing the wrong brand of shirt. You're not, your skirt is 2 inches above your ankle, and therefore you're a prostitute that must be condemned and be locked inside the house. This type of extremism that we see in the religious Jewish world is I think, for me, is a much bigger concern, because it indicates a closing of the mind, and that for me is the biggest problem. It's the closing of the mind, and the unwillingness to kind of think outside of what the community, the parameters that the community sets, and the danger is that the people who are the most, I wouldn't necessarily violent, but aggressive in the way that they police those standards, are the ones who basically end up ruling the roost, because the ordinary people who just want to get on with and have a quiet life and can't be bothered to argue with people will just basically quietly go along with what the more extreme elements are demanding, because it makes life easier and they can just get on with things. But that has a terrible, in my opinion, a really terrible consequence for us as a society, because it closes us in on ourselves.
Baruch Hashem, Alhamdulillah, our biggest problem with extremism is the length of skirt a woman might wear. Is it above is it below knee? How thick are the tights? Are those glasses kosher? So Alhamdulillah, that's our biggest problem.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think Haredi community is a blessing for Judaism. I think we need our version of Haredism in Islam. So I like them. I respect them. I don't know a lot about extremism in the Jewish side, but I think I hope we evolve to the point that we will have like secular Muslim, ex-Muslim, practicing Muslim, not practicing, all working together for the cause of, for the good of everyone. Like Jewish people, they're supposedly doing. We don't have that in Islam. We just go against one another.
Yassem, do you know what the Gamach system is? Have you heard of this?
No, brother, no.
Okay, so I'm wondering now if you have something similar in the Muslim community.
What is it?
So Gamach is like actually it's a Yiddish word. I actually don't know exactly what it means. It's something to do with action, I think, based on the schoolboy German that I have in my head. But it's essentially trying to help people. So, for example, like when I got married, there's a person who has a few crates of plates that they loan out to people. Maybe sometimes they charge a delivery charge, and you can take these plates to your caterer, and they're kosher, and they give them to you for free. Or there's a gamach for wedding dresses, so you don't have to go to the expense of buying a wedding dress. You can borrow one. You take again. There's a small fee. You have to pay for the dry cleaning of the garment, but you return it, and it makes things much cheaper. It's like a communal, I guess, resource. The same thing, for example, if a lady gives birth, there's often people within the community will organise, because she'll often have a family with a husband that doesn't know one end of a frying pan from another. That the community will have a rota, and people will prepare meals for the next 2 or 3 weeks, so that the woman can fully recover after giving birth and not have to worry what her children are going to eat, what her husband's going to eat, and God forbid if she has to let her husband cook for everybody. So, so it's things like this. I just wondered if you have similar sort of charitable things in the Muslim community.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do have a lot of this type of Islamic welfare, we can call it like this, like solidarity. With the name will be takaful. takaful, which is supporting one another. And the evidence from the hadith for that is just the Prophet ﷺ, he says Muslims are the body. When your finger have infection, the whole body have fever. So this is ideally how we are supposed to do. We are supposed to support one another. But because of sectarianism, we ended up like supporting each respective sects, like the Shia with the Shia, the Sunni with the Sunni, and within the Sunni, the Sufi Tariqa, they support their one, and Muslim Brotherhood, they support their own people. But overall, it's something similar. You know, it's like even the kids. You know, like in my family, when my one of my sisters give birth, and they buy clothes for the kids. You know, when the other sister give birth, she will wear the clothes of the previous, you know, the oldest child, and we do that with the neighbors as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe there's a possibility to do some joint Jewish Muslim version of this that can be open to both communities.
Definitely.
Exactly
I was thinking about something. You know, in East London, our kids, they need a lot of help with integration in the job market and with skills, and if we can get to the point that we exchange, you know, probably we don't have much to offer, but it's at a teaching level, tutoring, you know, like advice. I'm sure it will make a big difference, because sometimes you don't need to talk to people about religion or politics or how good you are. You just like teach them something skillful life that it will build that respect over the time. So if you have like some math teacher, English teacher willing to help one of those disadvantaged kids, it will be very, and if they are visibly Jewish, it will be even better.
Perfect. And so I think my last comment we'll end on is one of my favorite subscribers, Kenny Ken, the Pakistani fundamentalist. I'm just going to mute you, Justin, because we're getting a bit of echo. Kenny Ken, the Pakistani fundamentalist who believes that all the Jewish prophets were Muslim and that Pakistan is going to destroy Israel and that Pakistan is going to be the global caliphate. He comments every time. And this comment was that Eastern Ashkenazi Jews are Eastern European converts, not indigenous Jews. And so, Kenny Ken, I've got one question for you. I've done a DNA test, and it says my haplotype is E1B1B. And within that is EM35, which is Middle Eastern. It's not my DNA, my haplotype is not Eastern European. Alexander, am I right in thinking you descend from Levium on your mum's side?
So my mum, both of my mum's parents were Levium. That's straight from the tribe of Levi. I'm pretty certain that Levi was a guy that lived somewhere in the Middle Eastern region. So although my family lived for a long time, or has lived for a long time in Europe, that's a result of the exile from the Middle East. But my family is just one of those things. Like we've known for generations that we're Middle Eastern because we had a role. My family had a role in the temple back in the day. Don't know exactly what they were doing, but they were doing something.
I think on that note, we will wrap it up. So, yeah, Jassem, where can people find you? I'm guessing it's your Twitter handle in your name, but yeah, where can people find you?
Unmute Jassem so you can tell us.
Social media, Twitter is the only social media I am available on, and I think Clubhouse, but I'm not that much.
I've yet to venture into Clubhouse. It's going to happen.
I was just going to say, it's not about me. If you want to find me because you want to discuss or to hear more the ideas I say, just go to the Quran and Sunnah and find it for yourself. You don't need me to tell you. I'm no one.
But if you would like a teacher to take you through the Quran and Sunnah, to take you through the Hadith and who to follow, who not to follow, then Jassem's your man. Kenny Ken, please get in touch with him. He'll correct some of your wonky views about Pakistan. Okay, perfect. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, Jassem. I always enjoy talking to you. You are one of the true peacemakers that I know that puts your own safety in jeopardy to build bridges with your Jewish cousins. And as one of your Jewish cousins, thank you. Jazakallahu.
Can I just say something? I believe both of you had a physical problem. Someone put hands on you. From,
I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I was going to say, normally people from that background, when they see someone like me talking, they will say, first thing they will say, he's not a Muslim, he's a kafir, he's a murtad, he's whatever, you know. My feeling is that the people who put hands on you, they are my people, they are my brothers, they are Muslims like me, and I bear the responsibility for what happened to you, and I apologize for what happened, and I wish I was there to take the punch instead of you. So please forgive us.
So first and foremost, you don't have to ask for forgiveness. But what I would say, the woman who came to our defense was a sister. She was a Bengali Muslim and her Pakistani partner. And they were the ones that actually, I think if they weren't there, it would have actually been much more serious than it actually was. And she screamed at them, "This is not what Islam teaches." So the majority, and I will also add, the majority of times I've been attacked by Islamic extremists, it's been moderate Muslims who've come to my defense. Or not even moderate Muslims, just Muslims who've come to my defense, almost invariably. And I've been attacked several times, and it's usually Muslims that come to my defense. So yeah, thank you for your words. Islam has no reason to apologize. The Ummah has no reason to apologize, and you certainly don't have no reason to apologize for their actions.
Thank you.
So Yassam, so thank you for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate that you came and spoke to us and gave us your questions and also your views on the questions from our viewers and listeners. So that's it for another week. I think we're done.
If you want, make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, head over to Instagram where we've got a growing presence. Thank God.
One other thing. Sorry, we've got a bit of an echo from Yassam again. So just one other thing before we go is we're going to have another special live stream on Sunday at what time are we going to do? 8:30.
Well, we need to check in with the guest, but I'll let you say more.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to. I don't know if anyone's seen it. There was a live stream between Roger Waters and a Holocaust survivor called Gabor Mate, which some of you may have heard of, and we're going to be analysing some of the information that was, or I say information in the loosest possible sense of the word, some of the information that appeared on this live stream. We're going to be going through it, and Joe hasn't seen it, so you're going to get his first-hand instant reaction to some of the things that were said, and that's on Sunday night.
The final thing, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by purchasing our merch, Zionist hoodies, anti-Zionist tier mugs, or you can support us on Patreon, which is Israel Advocacy Movement. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed the show, Jassam, and Jazakallahu. Thank you so much for taking part.